Hello, do you want to learn DB2 on mainframe? Then this course is perfect for you. Hello everyone, my name is Sandeep and in this video I'm going to show you all the DB2 commands, for example DDL commands, DML commands like select, insert, etc. in this particular course. We will start with introduction of DB2, then we will move to various data types in DB2 and then we will understand about all the DB2 commands which are important. And by the end of the course, you will know how to run all these DB2 commands on mainframe. Last but not the least, if you're really interested in mastering DB2 on mainframe, then you can enroll for the paid course of mine. I'll provide you the link of the course in the description of the video. So just go to the website trainul.com and under all courses, just go to mainframe, and under mainframe, you see you will be having DB2. You just click on this DB2, or if you just go to this particular link, okay, I'll just give this particular link, and you see at this moment the price of the course is just rupees 2000, but definitely this price is going to change in the future. And I'll be also giving the coupon code for this particular course, using which the first 50 students will be able to make this particular course for free using that particular coupon code. So in order to get all these benefits, you just have to do one thing. You just have to subscribe to our channel so that you'll get all the updates and notification. And this takes efforts to create videos like this. So I'll really appreciate if you like the video, if the video will be helpful. Also, please share with your friends, family members, or anyone who is interested in mastering DB2. So without wasting much time, let's get started. Welcome everyone. In this section, we will understand what is DB2. DB2 is a relational database. So when I say it is a relational database, that means it is based on the principle of relation. And the relation can be anything. For example, there can be a relation between rows and columns, or there can be a relation between tables. DB2 follows the principle of RDBMS. As we know that RDBMS is Relational Database Management System. Okay, so DB2 also follows this particular principle. Now DB2 is a product of IBM, and DB2 mostly runs on IBM mainframes, or it is also used in assembly language, that is AS400, or it is also run on Linux environment as well. Please note that we can also download DB2 in the local PC and we can install it, but this course primarily focuses on DB2 on IBM mainframes. So you can go to Wikipedia and you can see the details about IBM DB2. So here you can see that the developer is IBM. It was released in 1983 initially, and this is type of RDBMS, right? And you can see other details. For example, you have current supported platforms, history, and so on. Okay, so if anyone of you are interested, please have a look in this particular link. Okay, now we have this particular page, that is IBM DB2 databases. Okay, and you can just click on this explore solution. Okay, so you can understand the type of solutions they offer, and they do have the free trial. Okay, and if you just click on this link, you can see what is the start free trial, right? And if you just go here, you can see that they have this trials and download link as well. Okay, so you can just try this in your local PC. So please note that you can download the DB2 in your local PC, and this course is all about DB2 on IBM mainframe. So this marks the end of this section on introduction to DB2. Welcome everyone. In this section, we will understand the type of SQL operations we have in DB2. So here you can see that we have 4 types of operations. Okay, so first one is DDL. DDL stands for Data Definition Language. Okay, so in DDL we have 3 types of statements, that is create statement, alter statement, and drop statement. Okay, so create is used to create a table or view or synonyms or alias. Alter is used to change the properties of the table, and along with alter we can use alter table, alter view, alter synonym, alter alias. Similarly, we can use drop to drop the table or drop the view or drop the synonym or drop alias. Please note that delete is DML while drop is DDL. When we use drop, the drop will completely drop the table from the database. Okay, while if we use delete, then delete is just a logical delete. Okay, and this delete is DML operation. Okay, so this is the major difference between drop and delete. Now the second operation you can see here is DML. DML is data manipulation language. Okay, in DML we have insert, update, delete and select. So using insert, we can insert the records into table. Using update, we can update a particular record based on a particular condition. Okay, and these conditions are all optional. Okay, again, as we discussed, delete is a part of DML operation, and this is a logical delete. Okay, and the last one we have is select in DML. Now select is used to select all the columns from a table or view or a synonym or alias. Okay, or you can also use select to select a particular column or a group of column. Okay, so we will see all this once we move further. Okay, the next one we have is DCL. Okay, so DCL is data control language. Okay, so mostly DBA uses this DCL, that is grant and revoke. So you can give access to a particular area or particular table to a particular user, or you can give the access to entire public or a particular group of users. You can also revoke the access, that is you can take back the access from a particular user or from a user group or from the public using revoke. Okay, so we will not see about DCL operation in this course, okay, because this is part of DBA operation. Okay, and DBA does all this job. Okay, the next one we have is TCL. So TCL is transaction control language. Okay, and basically TCL operation is not used directly in DB2, rather it is used in COBOL DB2 program inside the application program. Okay, so once you have created COBOL DB2 program, inside the program you can use TCL operation. Now in TCL operation we have two statements, basically commit and rollback. Okay, so commit is used to commit the changes. So suppose you want to commit a change at a particular point, you can just give commit in the program. Okay, similarly rollback is used to back out the changes. For example, you want to back out the changes due to some condition or due to an event, then you can just give rollback. Now please note that commit and rollback are used in application program inside exec SQL and end exec statement. Okay, so you'll see that once we move further in this course as well. Okay, so just to summarize, we have four types of operation, that is DDL, DML, DCL and TCL. DCL is part of DBA and TCL operation will be done in the application program. In most cases, in most of the project, DDL operations are also done by DBA. Okay, that is creating the table or alter the properties of the table or physically dropping a table. Okay, so all this happens by DBA, but DDL operation every developer should know, but DCL operation is not required for the developer because it is pure DBA work. Okay, so that's it in this section. I hope you really like this section. Welcome everyone. Let us understand the hierarchy of DB2. So in DB2, at the topmost level we have storage group. Okay, so storage group, as the name suggests, is a group of storage, or you can also say that it is a set of volumes on -D, that is set of volumes on direct access storage device. So these set of volumes are vSAM datasets. Okay, and you can see that this storage group, if you just consider this entire area as storage group, then storage group are further divided into databases. Okay, so you can see that here we have database 1.1. Okay, similarly this is database 1.2. Okay, similarly this is database 3.3, and we have database 4.4 as well. Okay, So in one storage group, you can have multiple databases. Similarly, you can have n number of storage group as well. Okay. So I have mentioned here as -d volume 1, 2. Okay. So you can consider this as whole, and this is -d volume 1, 2. So you can have multiple databases. So in this case, it has 2 databases, right? Again, here you have 2 databases as well. So this is storage group 1, 2. Okay. And this one is storage group 3, 4, right? So I mentioned here as storage group 3, 4, and here storage group 1, 2. Okay. So basically, -d volumes are collection of vSAM datasets. Okay. Now, what is a database? Okay. So you can see that just below storage group, we have database, right? So database is collection of tables and index. Okay. So you can see that in this database, that is database 1, 1, I have table space 1, 1, 1. Okay. And we have index space 1, 1, 1. Okay. So in this table space, we have table A, table B, table C, and table D. That means in table space, we have multiple tables. So it can be one or more tables. And in index space, we have index which points to the tables. Okay. So index points to these tables. Okay. So you have index A, index B, index C, and index D. Similarly, if you go to database 2, 2, here you can see that we have table space 2, 2, 2 and index space 2, 2, 2. And in table space 2, 2, 2, we have table I, J, and K. Similarly, in index space 2, 2, 2, we have index space I and J. Okay, so here we have only 2 index and we have 3 tables in this table space. Now, in storage group 3, 4, you can see that I have database 3, 3 and database 4, 4, right? Here also you can see I have tables. So I have just mentioned table E, G, and H, and index as E, G, and H. Okay. And similarly here you can see that table space 4, 4, 4 has table L and index L. Okay. Now in this table space, once we have created tables, so based on this table, you can create a view, you can create a synonym, or you can create an alias. And this table is divided into rows and columns. So we will see that what is row and what is a column once we create a table as well. So basically you can consider this row as a record. Okay. So all the records can be described as rows. So record 1 can be compared as row 1. Record 2 can be compared as row 2. Record 3 can be compared to row 3, and so on. Similarly, columns are fields in DB2. Okay, so you can say that columns are basically the attributes. Okay, so suppose for a particular table like employee, you have employee ID, employee name, or you can say department ID for which employee belongs. So suppose we have 3 columns, then employee ID is column 1, employee name is column 2, and department ID is column 3, right? So this is how tables are divided into rows and columns. We will see all this in detail. So basically we will perform a lot of operations on table. So we will create a table, we will select the records from table, we will then insert record in table, we will update the record in table, we should know how to delete the record from table as well. So we will perform all the operations as we move further. But at this point, please understand that the DB2 hierarchy is in such a way that at topmost we have a storage group. So storage group is divided into database. Okay, database contains table space and index space. Okay, so table space contains tables and index space contains indexes. And you can consider index as pointers to the data record in table. Okay, and out of this table we can create views, synonyms, and alias. Okay, and a table is further divided into rows and columns. Okay, so this marks the end of this section on hierarchy of DB2. Welcome everyone. In this section, let us understand about data types in DB2. In DB2, on a higher level, we have 3 types of data types. The first one is numeric, the second one is string, and the last one we have is date time. When it comes to numeric, we have integer data type, we have small int, we have decimal, we have single floating point, which is also called as real, and we also have double floating point. Please note that we have other forms of numeric values as well. For example, big int, okay, and then we also have decimal floating point, okay, but they are less used in mainframe application, okay. So let us understand all this one by one, which I have listed here, okay. So the first one is integer, okay. So integer occupies 4 bytes in memory, okay, and it has 31 bits precision, and the range for this integer is -2147483648 to plus 2147483647, okay. Now the next one we have is small int, okay. So a small int is a binary integer, and the range of this small int is -32768 to plus 32767, okay. Now this integer occupies 4 bytes while small int occupies 2 bytes, okay. So for smaller number you can define as a small int, and if you are a bigger number you can just define as integer. The next one we have is decimal. So decimal is also called as numeric, okay, and you can also say this as packed decimal, okay. And for example, if you have decimal of 10,2, that means it has total digit as 10, and after the dot or after the decimal point it has 2 digits, okay. So the range of this decimal is 1 minus 10 raised to the power of 31 to 10 raised to the power of 31 minus 1. Now in this packed decimal, or you can also say this as numeric, the range is integer p by 2 plus 1 bytes, okay, where p is precision. So in this decimal it has an implicit decimal point, okay, and the position of this decimal point is always determined by the precision and scale of the number, okay. Now the next one we have is single floating int, okay. It is also called as real, okay, and the range is -7.2 e plus 75 to 7.2 e plus 75, okay. So this single floating point is also used very less, okay. It has 32 bits floating point number. The next one is double, okay. So double floating point has 64 bits floating point number, okay, and the range is -7.2 e plus 75 to plus 7.2 e plus 75. Now it is not very important to remember this range, okay, but please note that if you have a bigger number, normally we define it as integer, or if you have a smaller number we define it as small int, and if you have a decimal point then we define that number as decimal, okay. So these three are important, okay, and these two are rarely used, okay. Now coming back to this string, so mostly we have a char and we have varchar, okay. So in char it is a fixed length, okay. So if I just give char of 4, that means it occupies 4 bytes, right. So n bytes is occupied if it is char of n. Similarly for this varchar, it is variable length character, okay. So the difference between char and varchar is char is a fixed length and varchar is variable length, okay. Now number of bytes in varchar is n plus 2 if varchar is defined as varchar of n. The next one we have is date time, okay. So in date time we have date, we have time and timestamp, okay. So date is 4 bytes, okay, and it has 3 parts, that is year, month and day. So year can occupy a value of 0001 to 9999, while that is month, can occupy a value of 1 to 12. Similarly dd, that is day, occupies a value of 1 to 28 or 1 to 29 or 1 to 30 or 1 to 31. So it all depends on the month and year. So in memory it occupies 4 bytes, okay. And the next one we have is time. So in time we have 3 bytes. First byte is hour, second byte is minute, and the third byte is second. So it occupies 3 bytes and it has HH, that is hour, and then that is minute, and then SEC, that is second. Then we have timestamp. So timestamp contains year, month, date, hour, minute, second, and sometimes it also contains optional fractional second and few times it also contains the time zone as well. So overall, if you consider this integer, small int, decimal, char, varchar, date, time and timestamps are used often, while others are not used frequently. Now there are other data types as well. Okay, for example XML or nulls. Okay, so anyways we will cover nulls later on. Basically nulls means that it is having a missing value. Okay, we will cover nulls in detail. And we also have row ID value. So row ID is basically unique for each row, and we can also retrieve the record based on row ID as well. So basically in data types, whatever data type we have in DB2, you will see that if we create an equivalent data type in COBOL, you can do that using DCLGen. So at this point, please understand that in DB2, the most frequent used data types are integer, small int, decimal, char, varchar, date, time and timestamp. Please note that we have another data type which is also called as boolean. So boolean is basically true or false, and it will occupy a value of either 0 or 1. Okay, so 0 basically means false and 1 is true. So boolean does not come under either numeric or string or date time, so I have just mentioned it here. Okay, so basically we have covered all the important data types. Okay, so this marks the end of this section on data types in DB2. Welcome everyone. In this section we will try to create few tables. Okay, so if I just see here, I can see that I have two tables, that is store table and we have item table as well. Now let us decide what are the fields which I want in this store table. So consider the fields like store ID. Okay, then we can just put store name. Let's give items to these particular stores, so I'll just give item ID. Okay, and let's give the date of receiving of the item, so I'll just give item receiving date. Okay, so I want these four fields in my store table, and let's decide the data type. So I'll just give store ID as, for example, let's give as integer. Okay, store name I'll just give as character, and I'll just give the length of 20. Okay, so let's give the item ID as small int. Okay, and for item received date I'll just give as date. Okay, now for item table, let us decide the fields. So let us say item ID. Okay, and I'll just give item ID same as small int. Okay, similarly I'll just give item name. Okay, so item name let's give as char of 20. Now let's give the price of the item, so I'll just give item price. Let's give the price of the item as decimal. Okay, and let's give total as 10, and then after decimal I want 2, so I just give 10, 2. Okay, and that's it. I just require 3 columns in item table and 4 columns in my store table. Now I have decided my columns which will be present in my tables. Now let us try to create the table. So I'll just go to option 15. Now please note that in your product it all depends. You might not get directly an option 15 here. You might have an option like DB2, and inside that you might have an option of DB2 V10. Okay, so please check your product properly. Okay, and then check where is the DB2 V10 option. Okay, so just go there. In my case it is 15, so I'll go here, and you can see that the first one is spoofy, right? So I'll just use spoofy to create my table. You can also use QMF, okay, to create the table as well. So at this point let's go to spoofy option 1. Okay, and here if you see that you have to give the input file name where you have to write your SQL operation, and then you have to get the output of that SQL operation to an output file name, okay, which you have to list here. So if I just give start, let me go to 3.4. I'll just give here maidecase.db2. Okay, so I have created two files, that is maidecase.db2.ispoofy, and here I have just given I to denote that it is input. Similarly, I have created an output file with the name maidecase.db2.ospoofy. Okay, O denotes here output. Now if I just give I to see the information of the file, you can see that this file is a PS file. Okay, it is having a fixed block. Okay, record length is 80 and block size as 3120, and primary and secondary quantity as 2,2 respectively. So you have to create a fixed block based on your personal choice. You can give a particular block size or number of extents, you can vary, but please make sure that it is a fixed block. Now the next file we have is output, right? So if I just give here I, you can see that this is also a PS file, but in this case I have created a variable block. Okay, and I have just given the record length as 4092 and block size as 4096. So in this case, please make sure you give record format as variable block. Now let's come back and I'll just go to my spoofy, and I missed to copy the name here, so I'll just copy this file name. Okay, so I'll give my input file name here, and I'll just give my output file name here. Okay, let me change this to O. Okay, and let me give enter. Just give enter. I'll just give res to reset. Okay, now I'll just give I5. I just give a random insert. Okay, so you can give I6, I7, I2 based on your personal choice. Okay, now let me create a table for a store. So I'll just give create table. Let us give the name of the table as store. Okay, so create table and then table name. So create table store, and let's give the field. So I'll just give store ID, store underscore ID, right? So if you just see here, this is what we decided, that we will give store ID as integer, right? So I'll just give here integer, and the next one we have store name. So let's give store underscore name. Okay, and let's give char of 20. Okay, now here the next one we have is item ID. So item ID, and we decided small int, so I'll just give small int here, and I'll just give item underscore recv underscore date as date. Okay, and please note that at the end you have to give a semicolon. Okay, so this semicolon you have to give at the end. So this is how we have created a table for store. Now what I'll do here is I'll just create my item table. Okay, so I'll just give here create table, and let's give the name of the table as item, and we decided to give item ID here, so I'll just give item ID small int and item name. Let's give char of 20. Okay, and we have also decided to give the price of the item, right? So let's give the price of the item as item underscore price. Okay, let's give as decimal 10,2. So this is how it looks like. Now what we can do is we can add an extra column here as, for example, item quantity. Okay, that is total number of items, sorry, quantity. Okay, so let's give here as item underscore quantity, and let's give this item quantity as small int. Okay, So everything looks fine. Let's save this. Okay, so basically we have created two tables, that is store table and item table. Okay, now what I can do here is, to execute this you have to give semicolon. Okay, and you can just give F3. Okay, so you can see that you get an error, that is made case does not have the privilege to perform operation create table on object DSN DB04. So by default the database is DSN DB04. So it says that I do not have access to create a table on this particular default database. Okay, so what I can do here is, let me come back by giving F3. Okay, I'll just give enter again. So basically what I have to do here is, I have to give the name of the database. Okay, so I'll just give here I. Okay, and let's give the name of the database as in, and then DB1. Okay, so this is the database which is allocated to me. Okay, so I have to give the database name here, and then I have to give table space name here. So the table space which is allocated to me is ts mate ks. Okay, so this looks fine. Okay, I'll just delete this also because I want to give the semicolon at end here. Okay, and this looks fine, and let's copy this to this place also. Okay, and let's remove this semicolon. Right, so basically what I have done is, I have just given create table name, and then the various fields in the table, and then in database name, and then dot table space name. Okay, similarly here in database name dot table space name. So I'll just give here semicolon. You can give any number of semicolons, but it should be more than 3. Okay, just give F3, and here you can see that the statement execution was successful. Okay, and SQL code is 0. Okay, here also you can see that statement execution was successful, SQL code is 0. Okay, now let us come back. Now what I can do here is, I can just comment out these lines. So in order to comment out in spoofy, you have to use hyphens. So I'll just give 2 hyphens. Okay, 2 hyphen means it is comment. Okay, so I'll just comment these lines because these lines has already been executed. So this marks the end of this section. Welcome my dear students. In the previous section we created 2 tables, that is store table and item table. Now in this section let us try to create a view. Okay, now views are created as virtual table. Okay, they are not physical tables. So if you delete the main table from which the view is created, the view is also deleted. So basically what I'll try to do is, suppose I want to extract the store ID from store table, and for that store ID I have item ID as well in the store table. Right, now if I take that particular item ID and if I just go to my item table, I want to get the price of that item and I want to get the quantity of the item. Now this is a hypothetical situation. It might not be the same scenario in your project. So based on the situation we have to create the view. We have to analyze whether views are needed or not. So let us try to create a simple view. So what I'll do here is, I'll just create the name of the view as store item. Okay, and let us put few details, that is few fields. I'll just give store ID. Okay, so store ID I'll extract from store table, and then I have this item ID. Item ID I'll just extract from item table, or you can extract item ID also from store table as well, because item ID is present in both the tables. Okay, we can also extract item name and other fields also, but at this point let's keep these 3 fields only. Okay, so if you see, item ID is not unique in these 2 tables. So if you see here, item ID is present in item table as well as store table, right? So what I can do here is, I'll just give create command, So I just give here I3 to insert 3 lines, and I'll just give here create. Let's give the name of the view. So I'll just give view, and the name of the view is store item, right? So create view and then view name, and here we have to give as. Okay, now I have to select the fields from the main table. So I'll just give here select. In this case I want store ID, right? And then I want item ID. For example, take item ID from item table. So I'll just say item dot item underscore ID. That means table name dot the field name. So item dot item ID, right? And let's give the item name here. So item underscore name, right? So I have just given select store ID, item name, and here I'll just give from store comma item. Okay, let's save this. Let's remove this extra space, not required. Okay, so create view name as select the list of columns, okay, from the tables from which you want to retrieve these fields. So I'll just give semicolon here, just give F3, and you can see that the statement execution is successful. Now if you see here, we don't have records in these two tables, right? That is store and item, we don't have any record, and that is the reason we don't have any record in my views as well. Now once we go further, we will see how we can insert records in the tables. Okay, but if you just see, let us comment these 2 lines. Okay, I'll just give here I, and let us just try to select this particular view. So if I just give here select star from and then name of the view. Okay, so I just want to give select star from this particular object. In this case it is a view, right? So select star from this object means I want to retrieve all the data from these tables. I just want to see that. So I just give here semicolons. Now before I just execute this here, please note that at this point we don't have any record, right? So anyways we will be getting empty record, but I just want to show you how you can perform a select on this view as well. So here you can see that I have this store ID, then item ID, and then item name. Okay, and number of rows displayed is 0 because I don't have any record. Okay, so let us just come back, and similarly in place of view you can create synonyms and alias as well. So the logic is very simple. You have to just give the name of the synonym and alias in the same way how we have created views. Okay, so you can try that, but we will just create table and we will create views because table and views are important in DB2 mainframe. Synonyms and alias are rarely used. Okay, so it all depends on project to project, but most of the time we will be either using tables, that is almost like 90% of the time we will be using only tables. You can consider like 8 to 9% projects might use views, okay, and very few projects will be using alias or synonyms. So this marks the end of this section on creating the views. Welcome everyone. In this section we will try to understand what is alter. Now consider a scenario. I have a table called store and I want to add a new column in this table. Okay, so after this item receive date, I want to add new column called, for example, let's take the name of the column as store location. So what I can do here is I can just give alter and alter this particular table, and I have to give the name of the column and the data type of the column. So let's see how we can do it. I just give here I. Okay, let's give alter table and name of the table which I need to alter. So alter table store, add, suppose the column which we want to add here is store underscore location. Okay, so let's give the type as varchar. Okay, this time let's give the length as 50. Okay, so I'll just comment these. Okay, just save this. So if you see, I am trying to add a new column called store underscore location. Okay, so you can see that statement execution was successful, right? In order to verify whether our table is added with a new column, I'll just give here comment and let's try to select star from the table. Okay, so basically there is no record in this table, but at least it will give me the name of the columns. So here you can see that store ID, store name, item ID, item received date, and at end we have this store location, right? So store location is created using this alter. Okay, now suppose, now this time what I want is, I want to just change the store location from varchar to char. So I have misspelled this data type, right? So I have to give here data space type. Okay, so let us give a space here. Okay, let me save this. Now this time you can see that statement execution was successful and SQL code is 0. Okay, now let us try to alter the table in such a way that the new column, that is store underscore location, will be renamed to store underscore LOC. Okay, so basically I want to just change the name of this column. Okay, so what I can do here is I can just give here alter table store. Now in this time I'll use keyword called rename. Okay, so rename and then give column and the name of the column, so that is store underscore location to, I'll just give store underscore LOC. Okay, so basically the syntax is alter table name, rename column, old column, that is store underscore location, to new column, that is store underscore LOC. So once I execute this, my column name, that is store underscore location, should be renamed to store underscore LOC. So let's comment this and execute this. Okay, so let me give F3. Okay, so you can see that this statement is successful, right? Now just to confirm this, what I'll do here is I'll just give here select. So select star from store. So if you just see here, that is select star from store, you can just get store ID, store name, item ID, item received date, and then store underscore LOC. Okay, so one other thing I just want to tell you, now suppose you have this particular statement, okay, and by any chance you have not given this semicolons. Okay, that means you have not given anything and you just give F3 and you come out, right? Now once you give enter again here, it will execute the statement. Okay, so here you can see that the statement is executed, but it is always better to give a semicolon. Okay, so at start itself, if you just give semicolon, then directly you can just execute the statement. So this is how you can use alter. So you can add a new column, you can rename an existing column, or you can even change the properties of a new column. For example, you can change the data type, or you can also change the length of particular column. So this marks the end of this section on alter. Welcome everyone. In this section, we will understand what is drop. So basically drop is used to delete a table permanently. So when we use drop, all the views, synonyms or indexes are automatically dropped. And please note that drop is very different from delete. Okay, so in delete you can give where clause by which you can delete a particular row or particular record, but in case of drop it will delete the table entirely. Okay, so let us see how we can drop a table. Okay, So suppose I want to drop these tables, that is store and then item. So what I have to give here is drop table and then the name of the table. So let's do that. So I'll just give here drop table store, okay, and then drop table item. Okay, so let's comment this. So basically I'm trying to drop these two tables. Okay, so I'll just give here semicolons. So if I just come here, you can see that for this particular drop the statement execution was successful, and for this particular drop the statement execution is successful, right? That means our table is dropped. Now just to verify this, what I can do here is, let me first comment this. Okay, just give here select star from store. Okay, and here you can see that it gives that made_case.store is an unidentified name. That means this table does not exist. Okay, now as I have just now told that when we drop a table, the views or synonyms or indexes related to that particular table is also dropped. So let me verify whether this particular view is removed or not. So I'll just give here semicolon, let's give F3. Okay, and you can see that it gives me store item is an unidentified name. That means this view is also dropped, right? Now please note that we can also give drop storage group or drop a database or drop a table space. Okay, so we are not going to drop the storage or database or table space, okay, because that is a work of a DB2 DBA. Okay, basically the role of the developer is not even to drop a particular table or views. All these things must be done by DBA. But just to give a brief introduction of how we can drop a particular table, so that we should be aware of all these functionalities. Okay, so this marks the end of this section on drop. Welcome my dear students. Let's try to understand the important DML operations. DML stands for Data Manipulation Language. Now to access the records or to modify the objects in DB2, DML operations are used. So basically DML stands for Data Manipulation Language. Okay, and it is used to either access or modify the objects. The important DML operations are insert, update, delete and select. Now let us understand about the DML operation called insert in this particular section. So insert is used to put the records into the table, or you can simply say that insert operations is used to insert the records in the table. Now what is the syntax for that insert operation? So there are a lot of syntax for insert operation. You have to just give here like insert into and then name of the table, and you can just give values and the list of values. We will also take few examples to make it a bit easier. Okay, the next syntax we have is insert into table name, and you can also give the column names for which you want to insert the values. Okay, so suppose you don't want to insert the values for all the columns in a table and you want to insert values for specific columns only, then you can just give column 1, column 2, column 3 and so on, and for each column which you have defined here you have to give the values in this values. Okay, the next one we have is insert into table name, select star from another table. Okay, so suppose you have already created a table, okay, then you can directly dump the records from that table to your new table, and the syntax for that is insert into this new table name, and then you have to give select star from the old table name, right? Now suppose you want to insert specific record from old table to new table, then what you can do is you can just give insert into table name and the list of columns. In this case I have just given random columns, for example column 4, column 8, and you can just give select column 4, column 8, 9 from another table. Now here column 4, and column 89 is just a random name I have just given. So instead of this column 44, you can also have column 4 only. Okay, that is, suppose here in this old table you have employee ID, and here also in this new table you can have employee ID here, right? But I have just given here 44 just to denote that the column name can be same or it cannot be same. Okay, so these are the important syntax for insert operations. Now let us try to follow some examples. So I'll just do one thing first. Let me first create table, okay, because I have already deleted these tables. If you remember, at end we had given this drop, right? So due to that our tables got dropped. So I'll just uncomment these two, okay, and I'll just try to execute them. Okay, so let me give F3. Okay, so you can see that statement is successful, right? So both these tables are created. Now let us try to insert few records. Okay, so let me try to first insert record in my store table, and then we will take my item table and then we will insert record into it. So what I'll do here is I'll just give here I. Okay, let me give insert into the name of the table here, in this case is store. Okay, and I'll just give here values. Let me give the values as a random value I can give as 99999. Okay, and let me give ABC limited, and let me give a value here as 1234. Okay, and I'll just give a date as, for example, 2016-04, and let me give 21. Okay, so here YYYY is 2016, then it is MM, that is month, and then this is date. So this is in form of YYYY hyphen MM hyphen DD. Okay, so I'll just close it, and let me just try to comment these. Okay, so basically I am just trying to do insert into table name and the list of values. So if you don't specify column names here, okay, then it will try to insert the values for all the columns. Okay, so let me just insert this. So I'll just give F3, and you can see that number of rows affected is 1. Okay, and statement execution is successful. Okay, so I have just inserted one record. Okay, now if you just come here, you can see that the second syntax we have is for these particular columns you can just insert few records, right? So what I can do here is, let me just give R, okay, to repeat, and I'll just give here insert into store. I'll just give column, so let me give store underscore ID, and I'll just give store underscore name. Okay, and I'll just give here values. So what I'll do here is I'll just insert values for these particular columns, that is store underscore ID and store underscore name. So I'll just give here a random number, for example 98765, and let me give here ABC PTY. Okay, let me first comment the first one. Okay, let me just save this. Okay, so you can see that the statement execution is successful. Okay, and the number of records affected is 1. Okay, so we have again inserted one record. Now if you just go here, you can see that we have the last one as insert into table name, select star from another table. Okay, basically these two are almost same, but here I am selecting all the columns, but in this case we are selecting only 2 columns, right? So let me do one thing. First I'll create a table. Okay, so I'll just create another table. So what I'll do here is, let me just comment this. Okay, so I'll just save this, and I'll just create another table, that is I'll just give here create table, just random name I'll just give T2, create table T2 like store. Okay, and I'll just give in db mate 1 dot table space name, so ts mate ts. Okay, So basically what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to create a new table, that is T2, which is like store table. Okay, so either I can just give syntax, that is create table T2 and then store ID integer, store name character, item ID small int, item received date, and then in dbmate1.tsmateKS. Or what I can do here is directly I can create a table from another table. So I can just give here create table name like old table name. So I'm trying to create a new table called T2 from the store table. Okay, so it will occupy all the properties of this store table. Okay, so let me just give F3. Okay, so you can see that statement execution was successful, right? So my table T2 is created, right? Now what I'll do here is I'll just insert few records based on this scenario. So I'll insert record in table T2 from table store. So let me just do one thing. I'll just comment this. Okay, and I'll just give here insert into T2. So what I'll do here is let me just give insert. Okay, so insert into T2, and I'll just give here as select star from store. Okay, so basically I'm inserting records in this table, that is T2, and it will select all the record from the store. We will understand about select in the upcoming section. Okay, so please don't worry about this. At this point, please note that select is used to retrieve the record from this particular table. Okay, so insert into table name, select star from another table. So select all the records from other table. Okay, so if I just give here semicolon, just give F3. So you can see that the record got created. Okay, again, let me just do one thing. I'll just give R here. Okay, and this time I'll just give few columns. So I'll just give here store underscore ID, comma store underscore name. Okay, and here what I'll do is I'll just give here select store underscore ID, comma store underscore name. Okay, from store and then semicolon, right? So I'll just give semicolon and let me give F3. Okay, so you can see that number of rows affected is 2. Okay, so basically what I'm doing here is, if you just come here, if you just want to see the number of records in this table, so what you can do is you can just give here I, and we can simply give here as select star from T2. Okay, so let me first comment these two lines. Okay, again I'm repeating that. Please ignore if you don't know about select, because in the upcoming sections we will go into detail about what is select. Okay, select is also a DML operation. Okay, but at this point please note that select will be used to retrieve the records from the table. So if you just give select star, it will retrieve all the records from this table. Okay, so I'll just give here a semicolon, give F3. Okay, let me just come down, and you can see that I have all these records. So basically it has taken all the records from store table. So if you remember, we had given these record in my store table, and the same record it has copied from that store table to this table. Okay, now just to explain you further, so let me just copy this, just come here, and let me just go to my input. Okay, let me just come here. Okay, so if you just see this side, I'll just go down. Okay, and here you can see that first what we have done is insert into T2 select star from store. Okay, so at that time it got 2 records. Okay, so 99999 and then 98765 it has received from this store table. When you run simply this command, that is insert into T2 select star from store, because by that time the store was having 2 records. Okay, now again when you say insert into T2 store ID comma store name, So you are trying to retrieve only store ID and store name from store table. Okay, so in that case, it has received store ID and store name only. You can see that there is no value here, right? So this is how your create works. In the next section, we will understand about select. So this marks the end of this section on insert. Welcome, my dear students. In this section, we will understand about select. Basically, select operation is used to get the record from the table. Okay, so using select, you can just select the number of records from the table. Now there are multiple forms of select. For example, if you just give select star, that means you can select all the columns from the table. If you just give select and then you give particular columns, then you can just select particular columns from the table. Okay, so the syntax for the select is select star from table name. That means select all the columns from table name, or you can say that select C1, C2. For example, C1 is column 1, C2 is column 2, and so on. Okay, so you can just say select C1, C2 from table name, and all these conditions are optional. For example, where condition, then group by column name, having group condition, and order by column name. Okay, so we will understand about all this, that is where, group by, having, and order, okay, as we move further. So basically, to retrieve all the records or specific columns, you can just give select star, or you can just give select C1, C2. So if we just take a simple example, that is select star from table. So here you can see that it is the simplest form of select. Okay, we are just saying select all the columns from table. So this star denotes all the columns. And here you can see that we don't have any where clause. Okay, so here this where clause is optional. Okay, so if we just say select star from table, that means select all the columns from the table without any condition. Let us take an example of this. So let me go to 15. Okay, I'll just go to spoofy, just give res reset. Okay, and if you see that we just give select star from T2, you can see that we can see all the columns with the records associated with them, right? Now suppose we want to retrieve only store ID and store name, then what we can do is we can just come here and we can just comment out this. Okay, and we'll just give select store underscore ID comma store underscore name, okay, from T2. Okay, so if I just give here, you can see that only store ID and store name is retrieved. Okay, so you don't see any other columns here, for example item ID or item received date, right? So whatever columns you give in your select query, it will retrieve only those columns, and the records associated with those columns will be displayed in the output. Okay, so if you see here, the second one we have is select with condition checking. Okay, so if I just give a condition, for example where clause. Okay, so if I just come here and let me just give reset. Okay, if I just give here select store ID comma store name from T2, where store underscore ID equals 99999. Okay, that means what I'm trying to say is, please select store ID and store name from this table, that is T2 table, where store ID is equal to 99999. So if I just execute this, you can see that store ID with this value only comes to the output. Okay, so earlier we also got store ID with other values as well, but in this case we got only those store IDs which has a value of 99999, right? So this is the simplest form of where clause. Okay, you can provide lot of comparison in where. For example, here if I just come back, if I just go down, you can see that I have just given a simple relation, that is store ID equals 99999. Okay. Now in place of equals we can also give not equals. For example, if I just give here not equals, okay, so you know that this is a symbol of not equal, right? So if I just give not equals, if I just give F3 here, you can see that the stores which is not equal to 99999 are displayed. Okay, so all these records with store ID not equals to 99999 is displayed here. Here we have two records. Okay, similarly, if you see here, you have other options. For example, you have this greater than, or you have this less than, right? You have less than or equal to, or you can also give greater than or equal to. Okay, so all these relational operator we can just give after my where condition. Okay, now other thing is we can also give in operator. Okay, so here you can see that in operator is used to check a list of values. Okay, for example, if I just say where column in this list of values, that is 20, 10, 50, 100, which means if the value in the C1 is either equals 20 or 10 or 50 or 100, okay, then this condition is true. So I can also say here, if I just come down, I can also say select store ID comma store name from T2 where store ID in 99999, or I can just tell some other value here. So if store ID is either 99999 or 87766, it should display the result in the output. Okay, so here if I just execute this, you can see that all the store ID which is 99999 will be displayed. Now let us do one thing. Okay, we will create some more records. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll just comment this. Okay, and let me do one thing. Okay, I'll just insert a few more records. So I'll just give insert into T2. Okay, and just give values. I'll just give some random values here. For example, 97656. Okay, and I'll just give something here. Let me give a random value here, and I'll just give here 2018-08-09. Okay, so this looks fine, and I'll just give here R2. Okay, so this time let's make it to 92345 and 92346. Okay, so few changes I have just done. I just missed this. Okay, so you have to close this, okay, properly. Okay, so number of those affected is 1. Again it is 1. Okay, so everything looks fine now. Okay, now what I'll do here is I'll just comment these. Okay, now in this select I'll just give store ID 99999 and I'll just give here 97656. Okay, so I want to select only those store IDs and store name where store ID is either 99999 or 97656. So let me just execute this. So if I just come down, you can see that it has given me 3 results. Okay, so this is ABC Limited. Okay, ABC Limited, and this the new recent record which we just now created. So this is how you can use in. Now let us continue further in select. Okay, so the next one you can see here is select in between. Okay, so between operator is used for numeric check only. Okay, so you cannot apply between in string, okay, or alphanumeric. Please note that it has to be applied only for numeric. So if I just say where column name between numeric 1 and numeric 2, so this is lower numeric and then this is upper numeric. So if I just say where column name between 10, 20, 10 and 20, or for example 20 and 50, then it will check for all the values which lies between that particular range. For example, if you just come down, you can see that I have just given select store ID comma store name, where store ID between 92345 and 97650. Okay, so if store ID lies between 92345 and 97650, so all these store IDs which lies between these two ranges will be stored in my output. So if I just give F3 here, you can see that 92345 and 92346 is displayed, right? So this is how you can use between. Okay, the next one we have is like. Okay, so like operator in select is used for non-numeric check. Okay, so between is used for numeric check, while like operator is only used for non-numeric check. Okay, now like operator is basically used for comparison of a string pattern. For example, you can just say where column name like %abc. Okay, that means it will match a particular value, okay, which ends with abc. Okay, similarly you can say where column name like AAXYY1%. That means all the column values which starts with AAXY1 will be compared in this particular example. Similarly, you can say where column name like %XYZ PQR%. That means if a particular string contains XYZ PQR, then all those records will be present in my output. Now let us take an example. Okay, so here you can see that I have this HLD, right? So I'll just take this. Okay, now what I'll do here is I'll just say, let me first comment this. Okay, I'll just give I here. Let me give select store ID comma store name from T2, where I'll just say like store name like, for example, % and %. Okay, so if I just give here a semicolon and let me check the output. Okay, so you can see that HLD is present in this particular string, right? So this is displayed in the output, right? So let me just check for all other records. Okay, first let me just comment this. Okay, and if I just give F3, okay, so ABC limited, then ABC private, and then ABC limited, again ABC private. Okay, so I can see that 4 records starts with ABC in store name, right? So I'll just search for ABC. Okay, so I'll just come here and let me do one thing. I'll just give here ABC and then %, right? So just save this. Let me just give semicolon. Okay, and you can see that store ID and store name is displayed, and all those which is starting with ABC in store name is displayed, right? So in this way we can use this like. Now let us take another example in like. So we have this example. Okay, so here we have underscore also in like. Okay, if I give one underscore, that means one character has to be present for that particular underscore. Okay, let us take an example. Okay, so what I can do here is, suppose if I just give here in place of ABC, what I can give ABC, and then let me give a space. Okay, and I'll just give LT and underscore. Okay, that means the string has to start with ABC space LT. Okay, and after LT there must be one character. Okay, okay, so if I just give here semicolon, so if I just go down, you can see that all these records are shown. For example, ABC space LTD. So after T there is one D. Okay, so if we are sure that there is one character, then we can just give underscore as well. Okay, so you can see that if I just give here underscore, that means there is one character here. So if I just give like this also, I'm expecting output, okay, the same output which we got earlier. Okay, so you can see that we have got the same output, right? So this is how we can use like. Now please note that in place of like we can also give not like. Okay, so if I just give R here, let me just comment this. Okay, so I'll just say here not like. Okay, and let me just give here I'll just give underscore BC space LT underscore percentile, right? So if I just say this, that means select all those store ID and store name from this table where store name is not like this particular pattern. Okay, so I'll just give here semicolon. So if you just come down, you can see that all those patterns are displayed here. Okay, so if you see this, this is ABC space PTY, so it does not follow this pattern. Again we have ABC space PTY. Okay, similarly all these patterns are also not like this, so all these are displayed, right? So in the next section you can see that we have exist. Okay, so we will cover that exist in next section. Welcome my dear students. Let us understand what is exists. Okay, so exist operator is used to check if at least one row of a record is present. Okay, so the syntax for this is where exist, and then you can just give any other subquery. Okay, and the negation of this is where not exist. Okay, so you can just give where not exist and any other subquery. Okay, now let's understand this using an example. So what I have done here is I have added a column that is store underscore balance. Okay, just to show an example here. So if you just give select star from T2, you can see here that I have added one extra column that is store underscore balance, and I have inserted a value of 2000 and 1000. Okay, so for this particular store ID, that is 99999, and store name ABC Limited and item ID having 1234, I have store balance as 2000. But in this case, if you see here, there is no item ID, right? So in this case I have store balance as 1000. Okay, so what I want here, suppose I want to check that for store 99999, what is the sum of the balance? That means the store ID is present two times, here and here, right? So if I just sum this, it will be 3000, right? So for sum in DB2 we use a function called sum. Okay, so now what I just want to do here is I will use exist, and I'll just use a function to just show exist. Now some of you might be wondering why I have added an extra column. Okay, so the reason for me to add an extra column so that I can show you future example on group by. Okay, so here you can see that later on I'll be having group by. Okay, so just to show this example, I have added a column called store underscore balance. Now coming back to this exist. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll just give I, and I'll just give select. Okay, store underscore ID from T2, where I'll just give here exist, and I'll just give select store underscore ID from T2, where store underscore ID equals 99999. Okay, so this means that if this is true, that is existence of at least one store ID, then it will select all the store from this T2. Okay, so if I just give here, and you can see that I have all these stores, right? So 99999, then 98765, then again 99999, and so on. Okay, now let us do one thing. Okay, so let me check for something like 1 2. Okay, so if I just give a wrong store ID, that means this store ID is not present, right? So if you just see here, if I just come down, you can see that store ID is not present, right? So at this point I have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 store ID, right? So let me just comment this. Okay, and if I just execute this, then let us see what result we get. So here you can see that I don't receive any output. Okay, so it has just given a column ID, that is store ID, and there is no result. Okay, because this condition is not true. Okay, so there is no store with the store ID 99912. So now let's again change back to 99999 and let's run this. Okay, so you can see that we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So we have 7 stores. So this where exist is just a condition, just to test whether a particular store ID, that is 99999, is present or not. If it is present, then it will run this, that is select store ID from T2. That's all. Okay, so this is how we can use exists. Now we have another example of group by. Okay, so group by is used to group the related records or similar records based on a particular value of column. Okay, so for example, if you just see here, okay, let me just comment out this first. Okay, so if I just give here, you can see that all these store IDs are present here, and in these we have 2 store IDs, that is 99999 here and again 99999 here, right? And for these 2 store IDs I have balance as 2000 and 1000. Suppose we have an example where I need to group my result based on a particular column and we want to perform any function. Suppose I want to calculate the sum of the balance, okay, in each group. So I can consider this as a group, like store ID is present 2 times here, that is store ID 99999 is 2 times here. So if I just want to calculate that for store ID 99999, what is the sum of the store balance, then what I can do here is I can just use group by. Okay, so let me just show you. So I'll just give you select, then store underscore ID, comma sum of store underscore balance. Okay, please note that sum means it will just perform the addition of all the store balance, right? Select store ID, comma sum of store balance from the table called T2, right? So select store ID from T2 where store ID equals 99999. Okay, and let me just give group by store underscore ID. Okay, so please make sure whatever column we provide here, that is in this case we have given store ID, so this store ID must be present in our select clause as well. So if I just comment this, if I just run here, you can see that it has given me store ID 99999 has sum of 3000. Okay, so if you just come here, let me again show you just to make sure that you don't have any confusion. Okay, okay, here you can see that for store ID 99999, okay, it has occurred 2 times, right? So if you calculate, this is 1000 plus 2000, so it becomes 3000, right? So this is what it is shown in the balance. So if I just show here, okay, so this is store ID and then this is the balance. Okay, I can also give the name of this column. For example, in this case if I just go here, okay, I can just give here sum of store balance, and then I'll just give a name as sum underscore bal. Okay, so this is just a name I have just given. This is not a physical column name. Okay, so you can see here that store ID is 99999 and sum of balance as 3000, right? So this is how we can use group by. Okay, now suppose in this case I'll just remove this where clause. Okay, so if I simply give select store ID comma sum of store balance, okay, from T2 group by store ID, then it will take all my stores and it will group based on store ID. Okay, so here if I just see the result, okay, you can see that I have all these stores. Okay, so first one is 92345. It does not have any balance, so it is not displayed here. Okay, second one does not have any balance, third one does not have any balance, fourth one is also not having balance, but fifth one is present 2 times and sum of that balance is 3000, right? So we have grouped based on this store ID. Okay, now just to check how many times the store ID is present, we can also do one thing. Okay, so here what we can do is you can just give count of star. Okay, count of star, and let's give the name as store underscore count. Okay, so what basically this does, it's select all the store ID, sum of the store balance, and count of star, that means count of those records. Okay, and it will give the name as store underscore count. Okay, so I'll just give semicolon, give F3. So if you just come down here, you can see that store ID 92345 has some balance as empty because there is no balance, and the count of this particular store ID is 1. Similarly, for 92346, the store count is 1. Similarly, 97656 has store count as 1. Okay, and for 98765, it has store count of 2, and also we know that for 99999, it has occurred 2 times, right? So it displays 2, right? So if you just come here, just to verify this, okay, let me just give select star from T2. Okay, so here if I just come down, you can see that 99999 has occurred 2 times, and then 98765 has occurred 2 times, right? And all those have occurred only 1 time, right? So this is how we can use this exist and select with group by. In the next section, we will understand how we can use select with having and select with order. Okay, so this marks the end of this section on select with exist and select with group by. Welcome my dear students. Let us understand what is select with having. Okay, so basically having is used with aggregate functions where we cannot use where clause. So the next important question is, what is aggregate function? Okay, so if you just see here, these are the list of aggregate functions. Okay, for example, if you want to calculate the average of few numbers, we can just use AVG, that is average. Similarly, we have just seen that to just calculate the sum of 2 numbers or multiple numbers, we can just use sum, right? So similarly, to calculate the minimum of multiple numbers, we can just use min. Now to calculate the maximum among few numbers or some numbers, we can just use max. Similarly, just to see the number of occurrences, we can use count, right? So these are aggregate functions. The list is pretty big. We have other aggregate functions also, for example, median or big, but those functions are not that much in use in Mainframe DB2. So these 5 are the most important aggregate functions in DB2. Okay, so these aggregate functions cannot be used with where clause. Okay, for example, if I just want to calculate for sum of balance which is less than 2000 or greater than 2000, if I just give here where clause, it won't work. For example, if you just see here, if I just give here where sum of store val greater than 2000. Okay, and if I just try to execute this, you can see that it gives me an error saying that illegal use of keyword where, right? So this is the problem. Okay, so aggregate function cannot be used with where clause, right? Now let us come back, and instead of where, let me change to having. So having sum of store balance greater than 2000. If I just execute this, here you can see that it gives me one result, right? That is store ID 99999 with sum balance as 3000, right? And store count as 2, right? So this is the difference between where and having. Okay, so having clause is used with aggregate function, and we cannot use where on aggregate function. So this marks the end of this section. Welcome my dear students. Let us understand what is order by. So order by is used for sorting the records. Okay, so either you can sort the records in ascending order or you can sort the records by descending order. By default, the order will be ascending order. Now let us take an example here. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll just comment out. Okay, let us take a simple example. I'll just give here I select store underscore ID from T2 order by store underscore ID. Okay, so by default it should be in ascending order, right? So if I just give semicolon, if I just come down, you can see that all the stores are sorted in ascending order. That is store with minimum value, that is 92345, then 92346, then we have 97656, then 98765, again 98765, then 99999, again 99999, right? So by default it will take in ascending order. Now let us do one thing. Okay, now this time let me just give descending. So if I just give DESC, okay, it is descending order. For ascending order it is ASC. Okay, but if we don't give ASC, by default anyways it is ascending order, right? So just give semicolon. Okay, and this time we see that all this are in descending order, right? So the store ID with maximum value is present first, and the store ID with minimum value is present at end. Okay, so this is how we can use this particular function, that is order by. Now please note that we can also have the combination of all these functions. For example, select particular column from table, and we can have a where condition. Again we can have a group condition. Okay, then we can have a having condition, then we can just give not in, or we can just try for order by. Okay, so we can just combine all these. For example, we have exist, right? So again we have like. So all these conditions we can have based on our personal choice and requirement. Okay, so please make sure that you practice a lot in these aggregate functions and DML operations. Okay, so this marks the end of this section. Welcome everyone. In this section we will understand about update. Okay, so update is used to either set a particular value, or it is used to change the value of existing record. Okay, suppose I have this table, right? Now in this table you can see that I have the store ID 98765. Now you can see that for store ID 98765 I don't have item ID, right? So I don't have item ID here, and again I don't have item ID here. Now suppose I got an item ID for these particular stores. Okay, now I want to update that in the table. Then what I can do is I can simply use update. Okay, so the syntax for that update is update the name of the table, and we can just set the columns to that particular value which we want. Okay, so if I just take an example here, if I just come down, I can just give here I, and let me give update, and name of the table I'll just give T2, and I'll just give set. Now this time I want to set the value of item ID. So I'll just say set item underscore ID equals, and then I have to give a particular value. Let us give a value of 1234. Okay, so the item ID for the store ID 98765 I want to update as 1234, right? So I'll just give update table name set item ID equals 1234, and I'll just give where store underscore ID equals 98765. Okay, so if I just run this, first let me just comment this. Okay, and let me just run this. So you can see that number of rows affected is 2. Okay, so this is my result, right? So if I just come back, if you just give select star from T2. Okay, let me just come down. If I just comment this, okay, and if I just see where is my select star from T2. Okay, so this I have uncommented. Okay, so if I just give here semicolon, now I have the value for this store ID. Okay, so 98765 has item ID 1234, right? Similarly, we can also set item receive date. Okay, so let us try that. Okay, now what I'll do here is I'll just give item receive date. So one moment, let me just see the name. So it is item underscore receive underscore date, right? So I'll just give here item underscore receive underscore date equals, let me change the date as 2017-08-08. Okay, so just a random date I have just given. Now let me just try, and before that I just need to comment this and I need to uncomment this, right? So if I just come down, you can see that number of rows affected is 2. Okay, now again I'll follow the same process. Okay, I'll just give here select star from T2. Okay, and I'll just comment this. Okay, so if I just see here, I can see that the date is also populated, right? 2017-08-08 and again 2017-08-08, right? So the same date we had just given here, right? So this is how we can use update. Okay, welcome my dear friends. Let us understand the delete operation. Delete operation is used to delete the records from the table. So the simple delete operation is delete from table name. Okay, but we should be careful while defining this delete operation, because if we just give delete from table name, it will delete all the records from the table. Okay, so the next one we have is delete from table name, where the condition is C6 equals Sam. Okay, similarly you can have any other condition here. So this is just a sample condition, that is column 6 equals Sam. You can give a condition based on your personal requirement. Okay, so let me do one thing. Okay, so first I'll just select all the records. Okay, so if I just select all the records, I have this record, right? So what I'll do here is I'll just try to delete this record, that is 92345. So I'll just come back here. Okay, I'll just give here. So what I'll do here is I'll just give here I. Let me just give delete. Okay, from T2, where store underscore ID equals 92345. Okay, so if I just execute this at start, you can see that if I just give select star from T2, we have all these records, right? So 92345 is present. Okay, and later on I have just given delete from T2, where store ID equals 92345. Okay, so it has given me the result that number of rows affected is 1, right? Now what I'll do here is, just to confirm, I'll just comment this. Okay, and I'll just execute again. So you can see that the store ID 92345 does not have any entry. Okay, so this way you can use delete from table. So you can see that we have covered all the types of DML operation. Okay, so we have started with insert. Okay, later on we just saw how we can use select. So select is very important. Okay, and we saw multiple forms of select. For example, we can select with a particular condition. Here we can select without a condition. Then we saw how we can use relational operator. Then we saw how we can use in operator, then between operator and like operator, right? Then we saw how we can use exist. And we also saw how we can use group by and select with having. So having is used for aggregate functions. Okay, and attend we saw order by, which is used for sorting, right? And again we saw these are aggregate functions. And after select we saw how we can use update operation, and attend we just saw how we can use delete. Okay, alright, so this marks the end of this particular video on DB2. If you are really interested in mastering DB2 with lot of examples, then you can just go to this particular link, and at this moment the price of this particular premium course is 2000 rupees, but definitely it is going to change in the future. And you see we have lot of examples. For example, in section 1 it is all about introduction, which is also available in this particular YouTube video. And then we have DDL operations, we have DML operations, which we have already covered in this particular video. But apart from this, we also have keys and index. And then we have multiple COBOL DB2 programs, which are super important. So you see, I have covered a lot of COBOL DB2 program, and then I've also covered a project in COBOL DB2 program. Then we have unknown and missing value. For example, this is called as null values in DB2. Then we also have examples on how to process multiple records in DB2. And at last, I have also provided a bonus lecture for you, which will also be helpful for you. So if you want to get all these benefits, then you can enroll in this particular course. And if you're really lucky, and if you use the coupon code, which I'll be releasing occasionally, then the first 50 students who will be using that coupon code on time will be able to see this particular premium course for free. At this moment, more than 5,300 students has already enrolled in this particular course, and most of the students are very happy after taking this course. So that's it about this particular course. If you like this video, hit on the like button. Do subscribe to our channel in case if you're new to this channel. So I hope I would have given you enough knowledge to get your DB2 journey started. So till then, take care. Bye.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side.